Tuesday, and welcome back to another episode of MSL Lead Chronicles, where leaders learn from leaders. I'm Mary Morton, and along with my buddy Chad Fellers, we have casual talk about the challenges and successes in medical affairs with the most exciting and impactful professionals in pharma. As always, we have another great one for you today, so stick around.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of MSL Lead Chronicles. I'm your host, Chad Fellers. As you can see, I am flying solo today. Mary is off on a well-deserved time away, and wanted to have a conversation. A few weeks ago, I was invited to speak at the Nexus conference in Philadelphia, and had a chance to have a conversation around redefining field medical excellence. And it was a really engaging, fun conversation to have with those in attendance. Received some really good feedback and have been asked for the presentation. And so I thought, you know what, I might do something a little bit different since we lead and learn from one another at MSL Lead. I thought, well, I'll just do the presentation here, and would love to get medical affairs leaders out there, get your thoughts and feedback on the conversation. So let's get into it without further ado. The topic was redefining field medical excellence. It's building AI-enabled high-performance MSL teams. And so I want to start by asking a question to you. So think about an MSL who is genuinely excellent. And what I mean by that is scientifically strong, trusted by stakeholders, always prepared. Okay, keep that person in mind. And does that MSL ever feel overwhelmed? Do you think back-to-back meetings, literature alerts, insight reports, Viva expenses? On paper, they look like top performers, but here's the uncomfortable part. Now, for leaders, think of it. Have you ever had a hard time clearly answering not what they did last quarter, but what actually changed because of it? So for leaders, the dashboards look strong, activities up, insights are logged, responsiveness is high, and yet the hardest question lingers. What did we truly learn? Where did we influence clinical thinking? And how did field medical move patient care forward? So really, this isn't a talent problem. It's not an effort problem. It's a definition problem. We are still measuring excellence as if information were scarce, science moved slowly, and scale wasn't expected. That world is gone. And that's why field medical excellence, it doesn't just need to improve, it needs to be redefined. So before we go any further, the views and opinions expressed in this presentation, they're mine. They don't necessarily reflect any official policy or position of Avidity or Novartis or any of their officers. Just to be clear, these are my thoughts after years of being in industry. Okay. Now, there are several reasons that field medical excellence must be redefined now, and I've listed 4 reasons here. Medical affairs has become the third strategic pillar, accountable for scientific credibility, stakeholder trust, and patient impact. And at the same time, the volume and velocity of data MSLs must navigate has grown exponentially. Scientific literature, medical claims, EMR data, expanded stakeholders, health systems, digital opinion leaders, patient advocacy groups. Human-only execution models are no longer scalable. Excellence can no longer be defined by activity metrics. You've heard that here a lot. A fundamental shift in how MSL work is enabled, executed, and measured is required. It requires moving to an integrated operating model where AI and advanced analytics allows MSLs to focus on high-value thinking, synthesis, and relationship building. So field medical excellence has shifted from activity to impact. Calls, insights, and responsiveness still inform, but do not define value alone. As scientific complexity increase, i.e. precision medicine, rare disease, and cell and gene therapies, the role of the MSL has elevated. The scarcer resource isn't information. In fact, it's meaning, prioritization, and action, which forces a critical question. What actually changes clinical thinking and patient outcomes? And I think we can all agree that impact is the goal. So if we do agree that, if impact is now the goal, execution must change. So if we agree excellence must be redefined, the next question is, what does it actually require? So we see 5 core pillars that consistently show up in high-performing field medical teams. First, strategic scientific leadership requires MSLs to anchor discussions to medical strategy and life cycle priorities. Stakeholder-centric engagement requires tailoring dialogue based on role, institution, and unmet need. Of course, insight to action capability. Talent and capability excellence. Strong science remains foundational, and success now requires data literacy, strategic thinking, and narrative synthesis. Then impact measurement, shifting to relevance, quality, and influence on strategy and patient outcomes. So really, there's one capability that elevates capabilities across all these 5 pillars, and that is AI. Now, to be clear, AI, it functions as an enablement layer, not a decision maker. AI helps integrate and summarize what matters most of the volume and complexity of scientific data previously mentioned. A challenge I've seen and I'm seeing now across industry is cognitive overload. And that's, too much information, too little time. AI enabled in workflows reduces noise and increases consistency. When used correctly, AI sharpens strategic focus, frees MSL time from manual tasks. This is why AI is becoming a core competency, not a niche skill. The value is in how MSLs use AI outputs. So how do we get started with implementing AI into field medical? The most immediate and lowest risk place to see this value is by reducing the administrative burden MSLs face every day. So in your office, raise your hand, or in your car, raise your hand if you or your MSLs get excited about creating expense reports, logging Viva calls, summarizing monthly highlights. Here's a key point. There's an inverse correlation between administrative burden and the level of scientific focus. Giving time back is one of the fastest ways to unlock MSL impact. Too much MSL effort today is spent on low-value administrative work. These tasks are necessary, but they are not where scientific value is created. AI is particularly well-suited for this layer of work, automating summaries, drafts, and routine documentation, supporting, never replacing MSL review and scientific judgment. Importantly, this is a low-risk, high-confidence entry point for AI. Once that time and focus are freed up, the real opportunity is how MSLs design more personalized, strategic scientific engagements. So when administrative and cognitive load are reduced, engagement quality becomes the real differentiator. AI fundamentally changes pre-call planning, integrates prior interactions, publications, real-world evidence, and even institutional context. Surfaces what is most relevant for that specific stakeholder. What does this result in? This enables truly personalized scientific dialogue, focused discussion themes, identification of evidence gaps, and unanswered questions, more meaningful, hypothesis-driven conversations. Engagement becomes a part of a continuous learning cycle. Each interaction informs the next. What does this mean for the MSL? The MSL role shifts to designing an intentional longitudinal scientific journey with each stakeholder. AI can help summarize these journeys for internal reporting purposes as well. It is a win-win. So let's take this even a step further. When those personalized conversations are informed by broader data sources, we can begin to identify care gaps at any institutional level. So as these conversations become more personalized, the next question is where to focus effort at scale. Aggregated claims data helps reveal delay in diagnosis, treatment sequencing patterns, gaps between guidelines and real world practice. Data is aggregated, it's non patient identifiable. It's used to understand patterns and not promote therapies. These are all key things to keep MSLs in safe harbor. When used appropriately, claims data elevates scientific dialogue. It enables hypothesis-driven conversations, anchors discussions in how care is actually delivered at institutions. Conversational shift from individual anecdotes to evidence-informed discussions about system-level care gaps. Now, strong governance is essential. Clear guardrails, transparency of use as examples. Ultimately, the value is patient-centric. It's helping institutions understand variation, and it's supporting learning that leads to ultimately better outcomes. And when claims data is combined with AI and other real-world evidence, those care gap insights become even more precise and actionable. So claims data alone identifies patterns, but AI makes those patterns actionable, rapidly synthesizes large-scale real-world evidence, for example, detects variability, trends, and emerging care gaps across institutions. AI enables precision at scale. A few examples: pinpoints where care differs most from guidelines or peers, prioritizes institutions and topics where scientific dialogue can add value. For MSLs, this sharpens engagement quality. As mentioned before, conversations are timely, they're contextual, and evidence-driven, focused on understanding why variation exists, not promoting solutions. This also strengthens the medical affairs feedback loop. Field insights are connected back to evidence generation and study planning. Strategy becomes informed by real world practice and not assumptions. The result is more credible, patient centric scientific exchange. So, AI enables a shift from insight collection to what I would call insight intelligence, synthesizes large volumes of qualitative field input, identifies themes, patterns, and emerging trends in near real time. This amplifies the value of high quality MSL thinking. Thoughtful observations get surfaced, connected, and prioritized. Leaders and headquarters gain real time scientific visibility. What's changing in the field, what questions are emerging, where strategy may need to adapt. Most importantly, insights are linked to action, informing evidence planning, as mentioned, guiding strategic decisions, closing the loop between engagement and impact. But realizing this shift also requires a new set of capabilities for the next generation of MSLs. So when we're thinking about evolving capabilities we expect and develop, the next generation MSL is AI augmented. What does that mean? Comfortable using AI-enabled insights, focus on asking better questions and synthesizing meaning, translating data into credible scientific narratives. So data literacy becomes foundational, understanding what data can and, more importantly, cannot say. Knowing how to challenge outputs, not blindly accept them. Critical and ethical judgment is more important than ever. Important notes. AI expands access to data, but responsibility remains human. Trust, credibility, compliance all stay central to the MSL role. This requires intentional capability development, training in strategic thinking, interpretation, and communication. Result, meaningful payoff. It's more time building high-value scientific partnerships, greater impact for patients and organization. As capabilities evolve, the final piece is how we measure success. And that means shifting our metrics from activity to impact. This is so important. If we change roles, tools, and capabilities, but not metrics, behavior won't change. Measurement always drives focus and incentives. In an AI-enabled model, we need to elevate impact-based measures, quality and relevance of scientific engagement, influence on clinical thinking and decision-making, contribution to evidence planning, and access dialogue. Um, Leading indicators become critical: reduced preparation time, faster insight synthesis, higher stakeholder satisfaction and credibility. All of these are examples. Over time, outcome-oriented measures matter most. Changing in evidence generation priorities, as previously mentioned, more informed institutional discussions, clear linkage between field medical activity and strategy. A powerful example of how these impact-focused metrics come to life is through the responsible use of claims data to uncover real gaps. I've mentioned this a minute ago, but let's take a look. So here's mentioned as a concrete example of how impact-focused medical dialogue and action. Claims data, as we mentioned before, reveals patterns. The power is in aggregation and context. When paired with AI, MSLs can focus where it matters most, identify institutions with the greatest variation. Again, one of the easiest ways to do this. Prioritize topics with clear unmet need. Prepare sharper and more relevant scientific discussions. And this elevates the quality of engagement. Conversations move from anecdotes to evidence. Stakeholders engage as partners in institutional learning. The ultimate beneficiary of all this is the patient. So to sustain this level of excellence consistently, we need the right infrastructure, governance, and leadership commitments. None of this, which I've discussed, is sustainable without the right infrastructure. AI and data governance are critical enablers, and they're not barriers. Clear guardrails build trust. Transparency ensures ethical, compliant use. Consistency protects scientific credibility. Capability development, here's an important point. It must be continuous and applies not only just to MSLs, but to leaders as well. Leadership alignment is the difference maker. Incentive structures, expectations must reinforce impact. Otherwise, legacy behaviors persist despite new tools. So with the right foundation in place, we can now define what high performance field medical truly looks like in the AI era. I think this slide brings the full story together into a clear definition of excellence today. High performance field medical is not AI versus human. It's human judgment amplified by AI. Technology supports the interpretation. It's not substitution. The center of gravity shifts from activity to strategic influence. Again, trust remains non-negotiable. Alignment with internal stakeholders is critical. MSLs, leaders, and cross-functional partners must share the same definition of success. In this model, excellence becomes intentional, measurable, and scalable in a data-intensive environment. So, with a clear definition of excellence, the final question becomes, What must leaders decide and do next? This is where the conversation moves from possibility to a leadership choice. Technology is no longer the constraint. Direction and intent are. First, strategic enablement of MSLs. Do we truly expect MSLs to think and act strategically? And if so, are we giving them the time, the tools, and clarity to do it? Second, insight synthesis versus insight collection. Are we satisfied with gathering data, or are we committed to turning field insights into decisions that shape strategy? Third, ethical, patient-centered use of AI and data. Not can we use AI, but how do we use it responsibly, transparently, and credibly in medical affairs? Fourth, operating model courage, redesigning roles, metrics, and workflow challenges, legacy systems. But avoiding those choices guarantees we stay activity driven. These decisions are leadership decisions that cannot be solved by individual MSLs or by tools alone. The organizations that get this right will define the next era of field medical, more strategic, more credible, more impactful for patients. So I'll leave you with this question. What choices will we make now to ensure field medical delivers on its full potential in the AI era? I would love to hear your thoughts on the content of this presentation. Please utilize this. Again, this was my own opinions. It's not representative of any company that I've worked for. It's just putting pieces together along the way from leaders like you who are on this journey. With that, thanks so much for tuning in to another conversation, or this time it was a walkthrough of a presentation here at MSL Lead Chronicles, where leaders learn from leaders. Look forward to connecting with you soon. Until then, lead well.